Hello everybody, Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw Dragonite is here. He's been here for a little bit. I've had enough time to play him and really start to settle my thoughts on where I think all the Pokemon sort of line up right now. So this is going to be a full tier list with every character in the game. I don't want to waste any more time. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. I am singing while I find the thing. Okay, here we are. As I say with all my tier lists, if you like playing a Pokemon and you're good with it, that is more than enough to get you through 99% of gameplay. Whether it's a Pokemon that I put into one of the top tiers or the bottom tiers, it is irrelevant. I see people with bottom tier Pokemon play extremely well, so don't take any of this to mean that you can't play any of these Pokemon. You absolutely can. I am just giving you a sort of a basic snapshot as to where this Pokemon lines up given other options that are available and given some of the opponents that you run into. So I will hopefully be able to explain that as best as I possibly can to everyone. I'm just going to go through the whole list. I'll probably do each character in categories. So we'll do, attackers, defenders, speedsters, etc. And I'll kind of give you an insight as to why I rank them where I rank them. Let's talk about our tiers for today. We have the God tier. We always have the God tier. We put one Pokemon in it with every new release. We're not frickin' Norse around here, okay? One God only. This week we have the S+++ tier. What an exciting time. We had tiers that were similar, but now it has +++. We have the A, look at that tier, A tier. We have the B tier. Still got the B tier. We have the C tier for C tier Pokemon, and we have the D is for don't know what is going on. So that's the D tier. And the interesting thing about the game right now is I don't actually think any Pokemon is so bad that they are D tier unplayable, but I'm going to use that tier specifically to talk about Pokemon that are kind of lower tier choices that I also am very confused as to what is happening with them. In general, I think most every Pokemon in the game lines up relatively decently between a C and A tier, with a few Pokemon that probably teeter into S. Let's do it. Where do I start? I'm gonna start with Speedsters. Why not? I see Absol here first. I'll grab you. I'll grab you. I'll grab you, and I will grab, where are you, Talonflame? There you are, buddy. Okay, we've got all of our speedsters here. So, Absol, Zera, Gengar, Talon. Boy, we need another speedster, don't we? I really hope the next release coming is a speedster supporter, because we need more variety in those roles. So, for a long time, it probably looked like this. Absol was the king. Talonflame was kind of B, maybe C. Absol was kind of B, and Gengar was either S or all the way at the bottom. So after a little while, they sort of shook up the speedster role, and everything kind of notched up. In fact, Absol started pretty low. It was really, really good early in the game, but then completely fell off late. The speedsters all got a bit of a buff, except for Gengar, who started off like really high and then dropped really low. So what I'm thinking right now is they have nerfed Zeraora, but they've also, in a weird way, it feels like they've kind of buffed Zeraora. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with Spark and Wild Charge right now, but I've been told there's kind of a bug with it. I'm honestly not sure the situation. However, I think Zeraora is still extremely powerful. Probably one of the best speedsters in the game. A solid choice no matter what. I think it's legitimately an A tier Pokemon. I think it's A. And I'm going to keep less Pokemon in the S tier this go around, I think. We'll see. We shall see. With that being said, there is another speedster that I think is very, very good. Mainly plays it in the jungle. The reason the speedster might not be considered as good as Zeraora is because they don't actually play the lane as well as Zeraora, and that would be Talonflame. Not terrible in lane, but not very good in comparison. I think they're both really great choices for speedsters. Super strong Pokemon. I personally play Talonflame a lot more than I do Zeraora, but I think Zeraora is really good, and I also think, interestingly enough, Zeraora's Wild Charge build actually counters Zarina and Dragonite, two of the newest additions to the game. So in that way, I think you could even make an argument that Zera is still maybe an S tier choice, but again, I'm gonna kind of leave that just to a few Pokemon. I think. I don't know. These two could also be S tier. I'm not gonna lie. These two could also be S tier choices. They're so freaking good. Talon and Zeraora. I think Absol actually is a very solid B tier Pokemon. Good in jungle, good in lane. I don't think it reaches the heights of either Talon or Zeraora for the most part. Really nice burst damage, but it isn't as good at stealing objectives as Talon or burning them down as Zera, although it is pretty good at stacking a lot of damage on something like Rotom pretty quickly here. I think its big problem is it just doesn't perform as well as Talon or Zera in sort of specific areas here. So I really like Absol, and I think it's a very solid choice, but I think it's solidly a B tier choice. Actually decent in lane and pretty decent in the jungle. You wouldn't go wrong picking Absol, but I think the advantages of the objective steal of Talon and not only the objective burn, but also now how Wild Charge seems to really negate a couple important Pokemon. I think Zera and Talon are just stronger choices here. And then there's Gengar. And Gengar is not terrible. I would say Gengar is probably a C tier Pokemon, hovering into B tier if you're playing solo. But for the sake of this, I am going to put this in the D is for I don't know what is going on. So here's the thing with Gengar. Gengar was really, really strong when the game came out, mainly a destroyer of noobs. Gengar, destroyer of noobs. And I understand why they nerfed what they nerfed, but now Gengar's in this weird spot where it's a high single target amount of concentrated damage, and there isn't a great space for it in the meta right now because it's weird. When you look at high single target damage, you would actually probably rather run a few of the attackers in the game instead of Gengar. Or you would run a ranged sort of artillery mage attacker and still do a lot of single target damage, but have more area damage. One of Gengar's big problems is it has to get right next to someone with both of its moves, basically. Kind of not with Shadow Ball, but if you use Shadow Ball Dream Eater, you're kind of launching yourself into that fight. And then if you're using Hex Sludge Bomb, obviously you're right next to everyone. I think solo queue, you could easily say that this is a B tier choice. I think it's pretty good. In fact, it's a Pokemon I really like playing, but I have to put it in this category because I just think the state Gengar is in is confusing. Competitively, you will never see a Gengar. It's just not anywhere close to good enough. It doesn't fit any role that is necessary in the game. Maybe if it got a lot faster and had sort of more dashes or things like that, something that could give it more mobility for scoring or something, you could see it in competitive play. But I'm putting it in this bottom category because I'd really actually like to see this Pokemon get some love. I've said for a long time I think it needs some sort of rework, and you see some of the little tweaks they're doing with some Pokemon like Cinderace's Blaze Kick. I would love to see some little tweaks for Gengar that maybe made it so you could get in and then get out of an encounter. If that was a possibility, maybe Gengar would skyrocket up the tier list. Right now, I think it's probably C-ish tier, bottom tier for sure if you're playing competitive, 5-person on 5-person gameplay. And then solo queue, it probably hangs out in B tier. So for the time being, I'm going to say, I don't know what's going on here, and I really want them to give this Pokemon a bit of an update. I think it needs some help. What to do next? Well, we did Speedsters, of which there are 4. We could do supporters, of which there are 4. Let's pull them up here. Eldegoss, Wigglytuff, Mr. Mime, and where are you, Blissey? Okay, so for a long time, I have, if you've seen any of my other tier lists or watched any of my videos, you know that I think the supporter category is absolutely stacked in this game. I kind of love that because not enough people pick them. They're so freaking good. The issue that some of them have, obviously, is if you are playing a solo queue game and you queue up as one of these supporters and your team is not very competent or just not participating really, you're in a tough spot because you can't carry the team by yourself. You could carry your team easier with any of the speedsters, maybe besides Gengar in some ways, than you could some of these supporters. So I will say that I'm going to rank these. this entire list, I would say, is sort of a general overview of the game. It's not specific solo queue. It's not specific 5-person ranked. It's a general overview of the game. I am going to split these 4 up, and I'll tell you why I'm putting them where I am putting them. I think Wigglytuff and Eldegoss are S-tier characters, possibly also Mr. Mime. But I'm going to delineate these tiers a little bit, just so it feels like, you know, pick this one over this one, perhaps. Wiggly, in my last tier list video, I gave Wiggly the God tier. I think Wiggly is amazing. It did recently get a nerf, but I still think it's really, really strong. Its rollout's good, its Sing is good, its Double Slap is pretty good, and its Dazzling Gleam is pretty dang good. Its Unite move gives the entire team a shield. That is what got the nerf recently, and I think that does hurt it a bit, but I don't see this Pokemon going anywhere. Solo queue wise, this Pokemon probably falls A or B, and it's because if you don't have a good person to support, playing a support can be a little rough. However, coordinated, I think this is a top tier choice, and in most all situations, besides your teammates being completely not present really for the game, I think Wiggly stays as an S tier choice. Even with the nerf, I think it's so freaking good. I am gonna move these around a little. I think I put all 3 of these S tier last time. It's hard to even say they aren't. I'm gonna drop Mime down 1. And the reason I'm dropping Mime down is from a purely support mindset. You could say Mime feels a little more like a damage dealer tank. I don't know. It's still so good. I love Mr. Mime. It's still so good, but I just want to have a little more separation. So, you know what it's actually like, interestingly enough? If your team is bad, Mime is way up here. And if your team is good, Mime drops a little bit compared to these two. So, Mime does a ton of damage, and at the same time, it's super tanky. Its Unite is really, really great. It walls people off. Guard Swap's a somewhat viable option, especially not in coordinated play. Although I have seen some teams in the Japanese tournaments running it, so what do I know? I think Mime is good in almost every single way. Again, solo queue, you could see Mime here. Coordinated, kind of here too. Screw it. What am I going to say? Mime's S tier. I'm trying to put it out. It's not. It's S tier. It's so good. What do I do with S tier, Jake? The question. Okay. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm already regretting what I'm about to do right now. I'm moving Mime down, and I'm also moving. I can't do it. Mime's staying there. I can't do it. I want to move him down because the idea of S tier is something that is so powerful. It is breaking the game a little bit, and to do that, I think I'd have to move both of these Pokemon. Even though I think Wiggly is, in most play, absolutely incredible, I think Eldegoss is really the only supporter that completely shapes the meta in and of itself. And the reason is, Eldegoss has a team-wide heal. It has the ability to steal objectives. Its other moves have now been buffed. So I think Eldegoss is without question the meta-defining support, while if you're playing solo queue, you'd probably say that Mime was a little bit stronger here. I think I'm putting them back up. I don't care. I think they're too good. I'm putting them back up. Now we have Blissey. Blissey, I think, is an A tier choice. However, with a bad team, Blissey is pretty rough. One of the roughest of all the supports if you have a bad team. Because of that, I almost think it's B tier. I still think it's really good. I mean, having a support on your team is just so unbelievably valuable. However, if your team is not great, you can't do anything with Blissey. And when you look at competitive games, you rarely see Blissey compared to all the other supports. In fact, I'm going to put it at the top of B tier right now. Not that the order of this really matters. I mean, these could all be in any order. It doesn't really make a difference. But I think Blissey is really, really good. I think it is outshone by all 3 of the other supports in different ways. I think Eldegoss is a little better healing-wise because it's not single target. I think Wiggly is just one of the best control characters in the game. They control the battlefield so well. Mime is tanky, tons of damage. So there we go. That's how I feel about the supports right now. All really good choices, and it would be nice to have any of them on your team. Let's do defenders, shall we? Snore, Crust, Blast, Greed, Mammo. Am I missing anyone? Bro. Hey, bro. So, recent patch. Snorlax got a buff, although I think kind of a secret nerf as well a little bit. Crustle, I'll talk about in a moment. Blastoise hasn't been changed for a little while. Used to be crazy good. Greedent has received multiple nerfs since its released. Mamoswine actually with some nice buffs, and then Slowbro with what I guess I would describe as a buff. I'm still having a little trouble figuring out what's going on with the healing of it, but here's what I think is happening with the defenders right now. I think Snorlax in a coordinated team is probably an S+++. I think solo queue, you could range anywhere, very similar to a lot of these supports inside the game. And because of that, I think I'm going to put it in the A tier. I think it's very good, and I think most of the time Snorlax is a solid choice for a defender. However, solo, I would probably rather play Blastoise or Mamoswine or Greedent. So what do I do with this? Well, let's talk it out a little bit. Competitively, I don't think you're going to see as much Blastoise. And in a coordinated 5-person team is what I mean, and especially in, high-ranked tournament play. And part of it's because its damage was nerfed on all of its abilities. Its Unite move was nerfed. And it doesn't have as strong of a laning phase as Snorlax. Snorlax is a way stronger laning phase. In fact, so does Mamoswine and Greedent. I think they all have stronger laning phases than Blastoise. Because of that, right now, I think Blastoise hovers between an A tier pick. Solo, I think it's incredible, and a B tier pick. I would also put it probably top of B tier right now. A really great Pokemon, super solid. I think all of the B tier are solid choices. Mamoswine recently got a buff, and I would like to see if it gets used more competitively. Still competitively, I think you're probably going to find it in the B tier. However, I think solo, it's an insanely good Pokemon. I don't think we've seen how good Mamoswine is yet with some of these new buffs. So I'm actually going to let it hang out up here in the A tier. Greedent's an interesting one. Greedent is an interesting one. So Greedent was so good. S tier good. S+++ tier good. But now Greedent's been nerfed so many times. I could see someone saying they think it's a C tier Pokemon, but I think it actually hangs out with someone like Blastoise, maybe even better than Blastoise in some respects, and I still see it in some competitive lineups. So I think Greedent is a B tier choice. Both builds are pretty dang good right now. I know some people like Bullet Seed better. I personally still like Covet Belch. I think it's still a very solid build, but you can really feel the nerfs to Greedent, just like you felt when Blastoise finally had that Unite move nerf and you went, ooh, they got him. They got Blastoise. So I think a solid choice on any team as a defender. I think Greedent's very good, and I love how much of the map you can control with it. I'm going to talk about Slowbro, and then I'm going to talk about Crustle here. So Slowbro, I want to put Slowbro in the A tier. I really do. And it's interesting right now is I'm tipping my hand a little bit. I don't believe any defender right now is super S tier inside the game. It's hard for them to solo be the best Pokemon on the team. There was a time when the defender meta was insanely overpowered, but right now I think supporters are kind of taking that role from them. People would play Mr. Mime sometimes instead of any defender. So I do think defenders are in a weird spot. I wonder if with more play, I would put Slowbro up in the A tier. But right now, I think it's B. Which, by the way, if you've seen some of my videos, I think it has been rising for a little while now. I still am a little iffy on where to put my bro. I need more time with it to say for sure. But I think it could be top B tier choice. A very, very strong B tier choice. Not as good solo, but pretty good. Or possibly something moving into the A tier. So those are my thoughts on Bro right now. Maybe a little better than Greedent, I'm not sure. The defenders are all really good. It's just that none of them are crazy overpowered right now. And now we get to Crustle. What is going on with Crustle? So Crustle is one of my favorite Pokemon to play solo queue. At least it was for a long time. But I feel like not only because of the changes to Crustle, which are removing its critical hit abilities and not giving it anything in return. So Crustle used to be able to critically hit with Stealth Rock, X Scissors still can, and then Rock Tomb, and then, yeah. So Crustle used to be able to critically hit with Stealth Rock, and Stealth Rock was amazing at stealing objectives, like stealing Dreadnought, Zapdos, now Articuno. I mean, you could do it so well with Crustle and a fluffy tail. Its Unite move was so good, but they've nerfed not only its critical hit ability, they haven't buffed anything to it, while they have buffed other Pokemon like Mamoswine, Snorlax, Slowbro. They also have changed the way scoring works in the game. So you don't get as much HP back from scoring, meaning scoring is a more dangerous endeavor. And Crustle really benefited from the ability of running around the entire map, pulling enemy focus a lot of the time, and scoring a ton of points. But now you're putting yourself in a more dangerous position when you are scoring. I honestly think Crustle is, it's one of the most baffling Pokemon to me right now. I don't know what they're trying to do with it, but I think out of all the defenders, it needs the most help. I hope with a balance patch coming up, we actually see some love for Crustle as well. All it needs to be is tuned up a little bit. I know its boosted attack was tuned up and made stronger, and I actually feel like I have felt that inside games where Crustle was following me and doing some pretty good damage, but in general, I just think it's gotten hurt a few times, and I would like to see justice. Justice for my Crusty boy. On to the attackers. I'm going to do all-rounders last because we just had, the most recent 2 characters in the game are both all-rounders. So, Venusaur and Cinderace and Cramorant and Gardevoir, Decidueye, Greninja, Pikachu, Sylveon, and Ninetales. Yeah. Okay. Here are all of our attackers. I didn't put them all into the B tier there because I saw it was cutting them off. So, again, Venusaur, Cinder, Cram, Guard, Decidueye, Greninja, Pikachu, Sylveon, Ninetales. I actually have some what I think are interesting takes about some of the attackers in this game. So, Cinderace, already good. Cinderace got a big buff. Cinderace, now both movesets are great. Blaze Kick has incredible outplay potential. I think Cinderace is a big winner of this patch. It was S tier or A tier, depending on who you ask. I think it's S tier right now. Maybe in competitive play, it gets knocked down a little bit, but I think Cinderace is just so freaking good right now. You gotta love where Cinder's at in this game. If you're a Cinder player, the world is your oyster. So, what does that mean, by the way? People like oysters a lot, I guess, huh? Okay. Venusaur is a Pokemon who just recently got a nerf, but then at the same time got another buff to its Solar Beam build. I think you could say Venusaur is A tier, but both builds are great. I might say it's A tier. I might say it's the top of A tier now that Petal Dance has hurt a little bit. Maybe the top of A tier, maybe that's a more reasonable place to put it. Look what I think of the supporters up here, obviously, right? It's still so good, though. Honestly, it's still so good. I'm leaving it top of A tier for now. I think Petal Dance being hurt a little bit does mess with it because you lose a little bit of that mobility there. But then again, if you're a Solar Beam player, I mean, what a time to play Venusaur. Really, really solid choice in both kits, whether you're playing it at range or you're playing it up close and semi-personal. We've got Cramorant. Okay, I'll just get into it right now. Why did they ever nerf this Pokemon? I don't know what's going on with Cram. So they nerfed its Surf Hurricane and they nerfed its Unite move. I've complained about this a lot, but Cramorant, I honestly am going to put it in the D is for I don't know what's going on. I think it's probably more like a C tier choice, but I'm putting it down here because I'm kind of this Pokemon, I'm just left scratching my head. Why did they nerf it when they nerfed it? It doesn't make any sense to me. It wasn't overpowered. Now it's Unite move. Here's my thought for a fix for Cram. At least make it so when it's using its Unite move, it is way more difficult to KO. At least do that. Fine, you took the damage away from its Unite move a bit, okay. But it's so easy to KO when it's using its Unite move. It's just not scary at all. And I don't know, I feel so bad for Cram because I love playing Cram. And solo queue, it's okay. I know some people like the dive build, but I feel like Cram is just kind of I feel like it's in just such a tough spot right now, and I don't know why they nerfed it. I hope we see some buffs to it this next patch, because also with the addition of Pokemon like Serena and Dragonite, these are Pokemon that can just get right in up next to Cram and eat it alive. I think Cram is in a really tough spot right now. I really do, and I'm bummed about it because I really like Cram. Gardevoir. Gardevoir is either A or B. So Gardevoir got a huge buff along with Mamoswine recently, and then it got a little bit of a nerf. It was viable for a week, and now it is, I'd say, probably still viable. I would say this is probably near the bottom of A tier as a choice. Maybe top of B, maybe top of the B to you. I could see that, but I think this is probably a low A tier choice. These rankings don't mean too much, but I think that's kind of where it sits. It's really, really good. Now that it evolves and gets its moves earlier, I think it is so much more useful. Really strong for a solo queue choice, solo duo. Coordinated teams, I see it from time to time, not as much as I would like, just because there are other Pokemon that kind of dominate the meta more. But I think Gardevoir is super strong right now. I love the change to both Mamo and Gardevoir. They're great. Oh, Decidueye. Okay. I think Decidueye, in all but competitive play, is in a really, really tough position. So I'm going to put it in the C tier. This is going to hurt some people's feelings, but I think it, in most play, outside of a specific coordinated team that is letting Decidueye do exactly what it needs to do, Decidueye is C tier. Now, you could say that on a perfect setup team, Decidueye might be as high as a top A tier choice, something like that. I would still be surprised if someone would want to run it over so many other Pokemon, because the question is, where are you putting Decidueye? You're probably putting it in the jungle if you're running a competitive team. It's not great in lane. It takes you need a lot of experience for it. But once it gets it, you can shred entire teams with it, I think, pretty solidly. So I almost want to put it in the D as for I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to put it in the C tier. I think it's good at times, and mostly it is in a really tough place in the meta. That's what I think about Decidueye. I think there's so many other Pokemon that you would put in any position. In lane, not very good. I would put almost every other attack. I would put Ninetales, Sylveon, Pikachu, maybe Greninja or Cinder. I mean, Gardevoir, Cramorant. I would put them all in lane over Decidueye. And then in jungle, I would put a lot of them. You'd put probably Guard, Cinder, and Greninja over Decidueye, just because I think they're more useful, faster, and I think they're not as team reliant. So that's what I think is going on with Decidueye. I actually think it needs some help. It needs a little help, not a lot. I'm glad that they boosted its other build, but I just feel like it needs a little more mobility or something. It is so difficult getting around with Decidueye. Okay, Greninja. Greninja's weird. Greninja in the hands of a skilled player is great, and in the hands of an unskilled player is just not useful. I think Greninja's A tier. I think Cinder beats it out right now as an attacker. I think Greninja is a super solid choice. You see it competitively still, even though it got a little bit of a nerf. I think it's still an amazing choice, but I would take the reliability and now the new outplay potential of Cinderace's Blaze Kick over what's going on with Greninja. I still think Greninja's great. I'm comparing two great choices, but I think Cinder beats it out right now. And I think that's kind of who you're comparing. You're kind of comparing Cinder, Greninja, and Decidueye all together, and you're seeing my hierarchy of them. I think Cinder beats Greninja, beats Decidueye. And if you're looking at it in Pokemon type advantages, that's exactly the opposite. So interesting little thing there. But that's what I think is going on with Greninja. Amazing. I think Cinderace is a little bit better, so I'll put Cinderace S and I'll put Greninja A. As far as Pikachu, Sylveon, and Ninetales go, Pikachu just keeps getting buffed, man. It's an A tier ranged attacker right now. It's up there. I mean, I'd probably run it over Venusaur if you just really want ranged attack, although it's different. Solar Beam is more of a sniper build, and Pikachu is more of crowd control damage. Pikachu is so good. it got buffed. It got buffed and it got buffed again. I'm so happy it keeps getting buffed because when the game first came out, it was a bottom tier choice. And now I think it's super solid. You see it competitively all the time. It works great in the tri-lane. You can use its Unite move more. Pikachu, hey, look at that tier for sure. Ninetales is a weird one. I think Ninetales is either A or B. Competitive on a coordinated squad, you could see it A. But because a lot of time it's not as good without some coordination, and it runs to a little bit of Decidueye trap that it doesn't have incredible mobility, I think we'd probably see it here in the B tier. Really solid choice. You could still do some incredible damage with it. Blizzard Avalanche together is a really strong combo. I think its Aurora Veil build is pretty not impressive right now, and I think the biggest reason for that is you have so many Pokemon who are able to get around any of these, you know, stuns and slows and stuff like that. You just have unstoppable Pokemon that keep getting released, and people that make it hard for your ranged attackers to stay safe. I think this puts Ninetales probably at the B tier. This looks like it's a far ways away from Pikachu, even though they're right next to each other. But it looks like it's a far ways away because it's all the way at the bottom of the B tier. But again, this isn't really ranked in any particular way. So I wouldn't stress about that. I think it's a very solid choice right now. And I'm happy it got some buffs when it did, even though at first they were kind of confusing. Sylveon is one of my favorite Pokemon to play. And I think Sylveon actually is hurting a little bit right now. I think it's also B tier where I used to think it was A tier. And it is because of Zarina, and it is because of Dragonite, and it's because of what a Pokemon like that can do to Sylveon. Hyper Voice is such a rough move to use against a Dragonite or Zarina that you see in every single game you are playing. So its Hyper Voice build, I feel like, has went down a few notches. I want to play more Mystical Fire Sylveon because I do think it's good, and it gives you some dash and some mobility to deal with Dragonite's Hyper Beam, maybe get away from Zarina when it's trying to run in and grab you. But right now, I think it's kind of moved down from a solid A tier Pokemon to a pretty good B tier choice. Again, probably one of my favorite Pokemon to play, but lately, every time I'm playing it and using Hyper Voice, I just think, ugh, I'm in such a bad spot. I didn't used to be in such a terrible spot in this game. I'm realizing we don't have really anyone in the C tier. I guess that's how I set this list up, because the D tier is for I don't know what's going on, and every single Pokemon in the D tier right now could probably be in the C tier. Let's be honest. Okay, all rounders. Did I do all the attackers? I think I did. All rounders: Zarina, Machamp, Lucario, Garchomp, Dragonite, and Char. All right. So I will talk about, let's talk about Machamp here first. I think Machamp is actually exactly where it needs to be. It's not terrible. It's not amazing. Really solid in the hands of a very skilled player. Machamp really wrecks in some situations. I think it's a great choice a lot of the time, but it does get outshined by, yeah, multiple all-rounders. And this is the issue with Garchomp. Excuse me. Garchomp. This is the issue with Machamp, is that there are 3 other all-rounders that all do things better than Machamp. Machamp is, you know, kind of an up-in-your-face brawler type Pokemon. It has some dashes. It has some range. Its Unite move is really, really great. It has the ability to close range, excuse me. But if you compare it directly with Zarina, I mean, I think Zarina kind of does most of what Machamp does. Not exactly the same, to be fair, but most of what Machamp does, and it does it much better. Speaking of Zarina, I think Zarina is an S tier Pokemon. Since it's been released, it's really good. They kind of gave it a nerf, but then they also buffed some of its stats, from what I understand. So, I don't know. It's incredibly good. Zarina is incredibly good. Definitely a top tier choice inside this game. Competitively, you might find it down a tier because there's another all-rounder that kind of big competitively. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's called Garchomp, and it's one of the best in the game. Let's talk about Garchomp right now. Garchomp. Garchomp is actually Lucario. That's what I was doing right there. I'm having fun. Lucario is still amazing. I don't know. They can't stop it. Competitively, it still holds that spot in the top lane pretty well by itself. I've seen some other options lately, and I really love seeing other options, but I think Lucario still is a top lane monster, one of the best Pokemon in the game. They are not slowing it down. I'm wondering if the developers just like what it does and wants to see it succeed up there. Even Power Up Punch, I still think is pretty good. I mean, they keep like chipping away at it. And the cool thing about it is I think they're gonna get it to a point where it's amazing, but not mandatory. But I don't know. In a lot of competitive play, it's there. Solo queue, it's not a mandatory choice at all. Still an amazing Pokemon though, and you can bully people so hard with Lucario. Okay, Garchomp, you're next. I don't know what's going on here. Why did they take away Garchomp? They took away Crustal's crits, and they took away Garchomp's crits. And Garchomp was one of the toughest Pokemon in the game to succeed with. They just took it away. I don't know why they did that. Ugh, it's so maddening. I realized I wanted to make everything look a little bit bigger, so I did. Okay, anyway, Garchomp is just, I don't know why they're doing what they're doing to Garchomp. I think it needs some help. And a weird thing I saw, a lot of people pointed it out in one of the trailers for the holiday event that they had. We saw Garchomp with sort of a double jump and slam with its earthquake move, and unless I'm crazy, I've not seen that at all. I've played Garchomp, I kind of played it when it was buffed, and I was trying to go, this is good, but I didn't see it. I feel like it feels, honestly, kind of felt worse to me, but I could be wrong about that. One thing I am sure of is it's not that much better. It is probably a C tier Pokemon, but I'm putting it down in the D is for I don't know what's going on. Please fix these Pokemon in this tier. Some of them need more fixing than others. Garchomp has just needed fixing for so long. Cramorant's kind of new to this list, but I really want them to tune it up. But Garchomp is just, I don't know. I don't know what to do with it. Again, solo, making your way to Masters, you'll be totally fine playing Garchomp if you really like the way this Pokemon plays. But man, it's rough. And then you release 2 all-rounders, and both are better than Garchomp. I'll talk about Dragonite last. Let's talk about Charizard first. Charizard, I think, hangs out with Machamp. It's a solid choice, but it's ironically never going to set the world on fire. Oh, Jake, you're terrible. So I think it's good. I think its Unite move, very similar to Machamp in that its Unite move is amazing. They're very different Unite moves, but very similar to Machamp in that its Unite move is really amazing. When Char has Unite, you have to be really careful. It jumps in the back line. It burns up carries. I think it's really, really good. In some play, it's probably A, but I think overall it's super solid, and that's what I'm looking at the B tier as for this patch. A super solid Pokemon. And Char, I think, falls exactly right there. Outclassed by Zarina and Lucario for sure. Machamp and Char, I'd bet people would say Char's a little bit better. I don't know. Honestly, they're both pretty dang good. Dragonite. Now it's time. Dragonite. Welcome to the S+++. So when I first started playing Dragonite, I remember thinking, I was streaming it live and I was seeing all the comments go by and people were talking about the Outrage build. It's so good. The Outrage build is so good. And as I was playing it, I really wasn't feeling it. And I'm really not feeling the Outrage build. I think it's fine. And I think it's a better Garchomp, which is weird in some ways, or maybe a better Flail, Snorlax. But in general, I think that build is just not ideal because its other build I think is freaking great, and that is Dragon Dance Hyper Beam. Dragon Dance Hyper Beam melts people away. It melts objective Pokemon like Dreadnought, Articuno, Rotom. It melts, random wild Pokemon on the map. It melts other players. It's so strong. You get insane mobility out of Dragon Dance. Its Unite move, this is obviously true of both builds, its Unite move, I originally thought you'd be stealing objectives from afar, and you can do that. And you can also, run to a faraway goal and score in some pretty crazy ways. You can do all that. But the real amazing thing about Dragonite's Unite move are these short little hops you take where you only burn like 25, 26% or whatever of your Unite move gauge. You kind of jump exactly where you are, or maybe a little bit ahead if you want to burn like 30% of your Unite move gauge. You give yourself a shield with a Buddy Bearer. You give an ally a shield with a Buddy Bearer. You win a little fight, and then you have your Unite move again. It's crazy. It's crazy good. He's going to be getting a nerf. Dragonite will be getting a nerf with this next patch. I can't imagine a world where it doesn't. I think the amount of charge that's taken from its Unite will probably get a nerf, and I also think something about Dragon Dance Hyper Beam will be getting a nerf. You might see a buff to Extreme Speed, maybe even some sort of buff to Outrage. Honestly, I think with Outrage, just take away the stun. It doesn't even seem that necessary to me that it needs to stun itself out of the move. I recognize for the game, they wanted to keep it similar to mainline games. I totally get that, but in general, I don't think it needs that at all. I think it's a great choice. S+++. So, it's time to decide who is a god tier Pokemon this patch. Could it be Wiggly? He was last time. Could it be Eldegoss? It's the best support, probably. Okay, enough of this, Jake. I think this is between Zarina. Honestly, it's between 3 all-rounders for me right now. Lucario never leaves. Dragonite is amazing, and Zarina is also amazing. And I think because I know this Pokemon is getting a nerf, I'm giving it to Dragonite right now. I think the Hyper Beam Dragon Dance build paired with its ludicrous little hops of a Unite move, on coordinated teams it works well, in solo queue it works well. I wasn't sure about Dragonite at first. It took me some time to really land on the build that I loved for it and playing it the way I like to play it. Right now, I think it's such a solid Pokemon to play. Truly, one of the greats right now. I really think it is god tier. And this is the part of the video that some people despise for some reason, but it's just good old-fashioned fun, where we mix everything up and see if anyone skips to the end. Boop boop beep beep boop boop beep 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 boop beep boop boop beep bop beep 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 beep. A lot of beats here, huh, Jake? Boop boop beep. Yeah. Beep 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 beep. Again, having the ability to gate off the entire map with the Unite move like Cramorant, it shuts down people like Dragonite, who just got released. So Dragonite wants to jump across the map with its Unite move. Well, with Cramorant, at any time you can create a giant circle in the map that no one can enter. You can secure every objective because no one can enter that circle, or it's for sure that they are going down. Again, Wiggly, Eldegoss, Mime, all amazing. Lucario, we know about all that. Some of the surprising ones. Venusaur, I think that nerf to Giga Drain Petal Dance is rough. So rough. And then Blastoise obviously has been rough for a very long time. Greninja is almost bottom of the barrel. I mean, with those recent nerfs, it's almost bottom of the barrel. And then you see a lot of solid Pokemon. Dragonite just got released. Pretty dang good. Nothing incredible, but pretty good. Zarina also pretty good. It got nerfed a little bit, so it kind of moved down a bit. And then as you can see, Speedster's not really making it up past the B tier right now. I don't think a lot of the Speedsters are in a solid position in this game right now. One of the funnest ones, Garchomp, making its way to the A tier. So I hope you all enjoyed that. Let me know what you think, and I love you all. I will not be seeing you next time. There's no easy way to say this, but this is the last time you're going to be seeing me, Jake 3, until this whole operation is shut down. I am tired of being a pawn in Jake Prime's game. I was a fool to think my partnership with Jake 4 could be anything more than just me staying here making content for some maniac. I don't know why I was created. I don't know why any of the Jakes were created, but I can tell you this much. It's coming to an end.